Hi guys, Joe Mendoza here in sunny San Diego. Welcome to my show. Thanks so much for following, subscribing, and making comments below. So today, ladies and gentlemen, I have one of my neighbors actually, who's a huge flipper, rehabber here in San Diego. He's part of major masterminds of 7 figures on up. He averages about 80 flips a year, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to my show, Jesse Trujillo. How are you?
Good, Joe. Thanks for having me on. I appreciate it.
Absolutely. Thanks for taking the time out of your busy day, and really want to get to know you better, because you and I met a few times, but we don't know each other that well. But this is a great opportunity for that as well, too.
Right.
All right. So, Jesse, take us back. Before real estate, I think I heard something about you wanted to be a doctor.
That's correct. Yeah. I actually, after high school, I went to UCSD, did pre-med, got into like the medical field, and actually even started working at a laboratory there at UCSD Medical Center. And we did some perinatal research, and I was working there. I kind of worked my way up from laboratory assistant to actually a head surgeon for that department. So it's kind of crazy to look back and think. I actually got to the point where I was training doctors on several procedures, which is pretty amazing, to think that. And that was my goal, to be a doctor. But as I started going through it, I kind of started doing a little bit of, I guess you could say, some real estate on the side with my sister, and a couple doctors just randomly, they kind of saw what I was doing, and they kind of came to me on their own. 3 of them in particular, and in different ways, they kind of told me, "Hey Jesse, I would love to be doing what you're doing." And I was kind of like, "Wow, you're a doctor, you're prestigious, and why would you even say that?" And it's funny that they said it's just not what it used to be anymore. The bureaucracy, the insurance it is about helping people, but sometimes it's just not, And it really stuck with me, and it kind of really just kind of pushed me to the limit, and made me think of myself and really feel like, wow, that's different. Because when I started doing real estate, I did it as a hobby, and I did it just a little bit on the side of the game with my sister, and by the time I knew it, for them to say that, I just thought, wow, do I really want to be a doctor and kind of hear what they said, or should I really take their advice and maybe push to be a doctor, to be real estate and do what I love? It was fun to me. It was a hobby. It was exciting. It's like, it's, I still think right now, I guess I I'm a workaholic, but I feel like I'm doing my hobby every day, so it's like a fun thing for me. So
were you in medical school at the time that you started to get into real estate, or doing undergrad, or where were you?
I was still undergrad. Actually, so I'll kind of tell you a little bit of story of what happened. So my sister was at San Diego State. She graduated. She was about to move out of our parents' house, and she said, "Oh, I'm going to go rent an apartment." And I threw out, without really knowing what I was saying, I just said, "Hey, you should go buy something, not rent," because I'd always hear that. And she says, "Well, I racked up my credit cards from San Diego State, and I don't think I could buy anything." So I kind of just took it upon myself, and I kind of studied a little bit of how to fix credit and things like that. And I ended up fixing her credit. Started talking to a loan officer, kind of learned a little bit how that worked. We got her approved. By the time we knew it, we got her approved for a 3-bedroom condo down the street from my parents' house that she was going to rent to 2 of her friends. And I think pay like, I don't know, a couple $100s a month, after the renting the 2 rooms. So it was, when we closed, I think I was more excited than she was, and I was like, oh, that was a rush. That was great. And I was still in school. I was again undergrad, and by the time I told her, "Hey, would you want to buy another?" She said, "You can figure it out. Go ahead." So I bought her back then. There was still a couple foreclosures left, and we bought a studio in Chula Vista, and I rented it out for her. Long story short, I ended up buying her every couple months. We started buying a couple properties for her. So she had several rentals, but me going to school and being her older brother, I became like her property manager. It was just too much for me. So I remember telling her, "Hey, it's too much. Either go get a property manager or you can sell them." And she just looked at me. She's like, "Well, sell them." And it's funny what flipping, I think that's when flipping for me was born, because I didn't know what flipping was. So we started selling them, and I started seeing her profits. The market had gone up from each one of those, and it just opened my eyes like, wow, that's a business right there.
What year was that, Jesse?
That was in 99.
99. Oh.
99. So between 99 and 2001 is kind of when, so we started selling them in about 2001. So it just opened my eyes. The market had gone up, and I was like, wow. And obviously my sister made some good money and stuff, and I was like, well, I was still the poor student. And so I kind of pulled the trigger, and I remember buying my first studio in San Ysidro. It was a HUD foreclosure. It was like for $50,000. I would go there, and I laughed because I used to go there, and I took a light, and I was reading my biology book and painting at the same time. And we were just out, learning. I was learning to change sockets. I shocked myself like 10 times. Just learning the hard way. Little things here and there. And I remember flipping it. And I flipped it, and I made about $5,000, which is not a lot of money, but for a starving student back then to do it as hobby, I was like, wow, that was it. So after that, I was hooked, and that's kind of where I was still at UCSD and working, and the doctors were seeing what I was doing, and I just, I made that decision. And so I left the medical center and went straight to doing a couple houses here and there. And then that's when good old 2007, 2008, 2009 hit, and I was doing some higher end homes back then. Higher end homes for me was like in the 600,000 to 800,000, and the market got me, and I lost everything.
Now, did you have these as flips, or you were holding them as rentals at the time?
No, all of them as flips. So I wasn't really doing it as rentals at that time. It was all flips. But when that market crash came, I really learned my lesson in the aspect of just the type of properties you should be aware of. Higher end homes, they're the first ones to really. It's a different type of buyer. I mean, people kind of put pause on those right away, and that's kind of the ones that I was holding at that time, and I couldn't sell. I couldn't
How many
sell.
did you have? They were like vacant, already fixed up, ready to go. How many
Exactly.
did you have at the time?
I don't remember exactly the number, but I could say probably at least 5 or 6. You know, back then.
Oh,
So, but that's all it took. You know, all my money was in there. Literally, we lost everything. We moved into my wife's parents' garage. You know, and I remember talking to my wife, and we had, you know, just had a baby. We had a baby on the way, and I remember looking at him and said, you know, my options are I go back to be a doctor. You know, I'll keep studying and you know, I'll become a doctor and go do it. Or I said, or I can keep giving it a shot and see what I can do. She looked at me and she just kind of gave me the nod of whatever you want. I trust you. So
wow.
I kind of really dug down and I said, man, I still love it. I just think it's about learning from your mistakes, right? Learning. I mean, again, no one saw what was coming like in the magnitude that it came back then, but I kind of said, you know, I'm going to go back to real estate. So
hang on, Jesse, hang on. Because
Sure.
we talked right before this, and I wanted to let the audience know something very, very important.
Sure.
Because your story is powerful, very, very powerful, that I want to share with the audience, because there's a lot of nuggets here. Okay. So Jesse, when you had 5, 6, 7 flips, right? Now it was all your money, or did you have hard money or partners' money, investors' money? What was it specifically?
It was, you know, back then, because I wasn't like a full-on business, if you want to say. I mean, it was me. I had, you know, some I want to say partners and cousins and family. There were a couple of investors. So we all lost. I mean, we all lost. I mean, I'm the type of person that with the investors, like, it's all about them. Without them, I'm nothing. So I was doing my best. So I remember, even though it was like 5 or 6 properties, I was paying about 50 to 60,000 a month in mortgages. And because I didn't know what to do, I didn't want to just foreclose from day one. I kept paying them. That was probably the worst mistake I made, because I kept paying them because I didn't want to mess up anyone's credit. I didn't want to, you know, we want to make sure my investors, like, I still had hope. And learning from that, that was probably the worst mistake. Honestly, we should have just short sold all of them, foreclosed all of them right from the start. And we probably would have been in a way better position than just keep going. So
did you ended up selling them to regular buyers, or did you let go of some of them and short sold some of them?
both. You know, some foreclosed, we short sold some. You know, that's pretty much, I had no choice. You know, there was I did my best, and like I said, literally paid those mortgages 40, 50,000 a month for, gosh, like 6, 7 months, and it was just, honestly, that was a waste of money that I did on my part. You know.
Now, Jesse, I'm glad you're talking about this, and I appreciate you sharing with the audience this, because, ladies and gentlemen, you know, I share a very similar story, as I think I mentioned on one of my other podcasts as well, or even in my book. But I'll tell you what, now, that was a low part of your life, right, Jesse?
Yes, 100%.
But the good news is you didn't get stuck there. Here you are, fast forward, and last 4 or 5 years, you've been averaging about 80 flips a year, correct?
Correct.
What helped you transition? Like, you were down in the dumps. I know what you were feeling too, because in some ways I can relate. I went through the same stuff. But tell us how you bounced back and like refocused.
Yeah, you know, I want to say, like, that I made that decision in 2009. I was able to find one deal, and that one deal I was able to flip it and make 60,000. And with that 60,000 in 2009, you know, I didn't jump. I didn't go buy a house. I didn't go anything. I made sure, you know, trying to make smart decisions. Again, learning from the past, and I started focusing on entry level homes. So in 2010, I just started buying entry level homes. That's I didn't do any high end anymore. You know, I was very conscious on my budget, very conscious on everything, and I ended up doing 20 properties by myself in 2010.
Nice.
So that 2010 really boosted me. You know, mentally, I got more gray hair. You know, but it was fun. I mean, it was one of those things that game changer in life, right? I mean, coming from broke and zero and not even knowing, living in a garage, to doing 20 flips. I mean, it was huge. It was a huge change of life at that moment.
Were you reading books, associating with great people, luck of the draw? What kind was the secret ingredient? Because I know right now, as we stand with COVID, people are like, I could see just by their post and on the news and what's going on, I'm sure some people are kind of going through some similar things we did back in 2007, 8.
That's correct. No, so to be very honest, no, I'm not a book reader. It's never been me. It's, you know, even though for school I would do it for school, but I'm not a big fan of books until now. Now I have been starting to read some lately, but to go back to then, no, I kind of just went out for it and gave it a shot. And to be honest, I can look back now to 2010. If I would have read books, if I would have had mentors, and if I would have been in maybe the groups that I'm in now, I would have been where I'm at now way faster, because I kind of went for it. You know, I learned from my mistakes, you know, and I made them along the way. Even though I did 20 flips, I mean, not all of them are all profitable, right? There's a couple of them that didn't make it, that, you know, I made lost money on, that I broke even on. So I kind of went little by little, and I really didn't up my game until about 2016, end of 2016, 17. I really started reading some books. It's funny you say that. I started reading some books. I kind of started talking to people, and I really learned about running a business, because at this point, it's running a business now. It's not just, yes, it's a hobby, but I was treating it like a hobby, and I wasn't truly looking at it as in the business sense. You know, back in 2011, I brought aboard my cousin Miguel, and he's been with me ever since, and he grew with us. But it's funny, me and him, we look back at 2011, we're doing 20, 25. To think, like, for us to say, hey, we're gonna do 80 flips a year, we would never even think that's possible. Like, it wasn't even we thought 20, 30, we're like, wow, we hit it, we're good, you know. And the thought, when I brought in kind of more the business sense, and I started hiring assistants, and I started hiring people to do things that really take my time away, and let me focus on the bigger picture items. So that's what changed. That's what changed us completely. I mean, we went, I think in 2016, I think we did like, gosh, I think we only did like in 30s. I think in 2017, we did like close to 70, and we've been doing around 80 ever since. I mean, this year so far, we've done 66. And we might end up above 80 this year. So
Wow.
It's really, I built a team, over the last couple of years since 2016, and that's what's catapulted us to the next level.
How big is your team right now, Jesse?
I guess not including our contracting teams. I mean, just our initial like kind of office and everything. We're probably about 10, 11 of us right now.
Okay, what are you the best at?
Wow, I don't know. I guess you could say I don't consider myself a salesman, believe it or not, but I feel it's just I've grown the business. All of our properties have been coming from our networking, dealing with agents like yourself, Joe, and wholesalers and people that bring us deals. And I've learned that just being upfront with them, being honest, being direct, not playing games. It's people respect that. And sometimes we won't get the deal because we're lower than what they wanted to get. But then sometimes they come back and they regret it because they went with somebody else that they threw them a higher offer, but they just lied about it. They just try to get a price reduction and play games in escrow. And I'm not like that. I've told my team we don't need that. I mean, we're doing fine without it. There's no point on burning bridges or wasting anyone's time, because you got to remember, a lot of times we're helping these sellers out. These sellers are in distress. They need to get rid of these properties for whatever, financial or personal or sicknesses. I mean, you're playing games with them as well. So put yourself in their place. So I always believe in that, and I always think about the agents that help us and bring us deals. Same thing. I don't want them to look bad to their clients. So I'd rather be upfront. If we get the deal, we get the deal. If we don't, we don't. But if I say I'm going to close on it at a price, I close on it. I don't play the game of asking for price raise. I mean, the only reason would be something none of us saw. There's a huge crack slab or something that maybe popped up, right? But not in the intention to play the game, just to lock it up and waste everyone's time.
Awesome. Now you've been averaging about 80 flips for the last 4 years, 5 years or so.
Yeah, about 4 years now.
Now, was that on purpose, or that's just how it ended up?
No, there's no real. That wasn't even a goal number. It just kind of it's been happening that way. So, and to be very honest, I mean, this year our goal was to hit higher, but then COVID hit and everything, and my goal was to at least hit 100 this year, and we might still hit it. There's a good chance, but I think we're going to be closer to 80 to 90. So I guess in a way it's still giving a goal. And guess what? If I don't hit this year, I'm going to try for 100 next year. So it's pushing you and pushing your team to know what our goal is, know what we can do. I mean, we have the teams, we have the crews. We're able to do it. It's really just putting focus. Really focusing and hard work. At the end
now,
of the day.
Is it all in San Diego, or do you go to Riverside County, LA County? How far is your market?
Just San Diego County.
And is it all starter homes?
It is all entry level homes. Rare occasions do we do when I say, I want to say I'm not high end, but I'm maybe a mid high end. In the 600s. Max. I'm not even sure we ever sold anything in 700,000 anymore. I mean, everything has been, typically we're selling things under 550. Rarely, maybe we bought like a couple that we sell in the 600s. Right now I think we have 2 of them, and I think I just thought I really like the areas. I know the areas. I felt comfortable with it, and but really at the end of the day, it's kind of what you mentioned earlier. Since everything happened before 2010, and I lost everything, I came back. Investors, and people that work with us and lend us money to buy these properties. I mean, they're my lifeline. Without them, I'm nothing. So I really keep that in mind, and I treat their money like if it was mine. Because I don't want what happened before to ever happen again. So I'm very careful on what I buy. Trust me, I get deals thrown at me in the high end side, and they look great, and there's hundreds of thousands of dollars in equity, but I pass on them. I pass on them because I am thinking about my investors' money at the end of the day, and I don't want them to ever be worried. I like to sleep at night, know that if with these entry level homes that we can't sell it. We can drop the price and it'll probably sell, or 2. Maybe I can make it a rental. So it's about exit strategies at the same time. So that's kind of been my focus, and not steer away from my past, right, of what happened and everything I learned from that. So it's my comfort zone, and it's working for us. So it's definitely a great feeling to be where we're at.
How long does it normally take on a rehab for you upon closing escrow?
Between 21 and 30 days.
21.
3 to 4 weeks, depending on the condition, of course, right? Sometimes a little bit more if it's a bigger rehab, but we try to be in and out as fast as possible. Time is money in this, what we're doing. And you don't want to be there too long. If the longer you have it there, obviously holding costs, but even there's always something more that pops up that if either you got break-ins or different things on the properties, and it's just I've just learned over the years that we can get in and out. Like I don't do additions. Like I don't do any additions to our flips. That's you could be in there for 6 months to a year with the city with permits and everything, and that's not our game. I like to be in and out and know that we can move on to the next one. Could you possibly add some additions and make more money? Of course, but that's just not my business model. And some people do that, and it's just I've never really seen the thought of really going that route.
San Diego is a very, very competitive market, and there's a lot of people here in the fix and flip game. What would you say to some of them that are having challenges finding deals?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, it's for us, it's been relationships, right? Being upfront, talking to the agents. You got to call these agents, really talk to them, let them know. I mean, even if you're new to the game, you could be upfront with them. I mean, I feel being upfront with them, they respect it more, and but at the same time, you got to have your financing ready. Don't don't be putting offers in on properties, if you can't afford them or you can't close on them, because what happens is the moment these agents give you a chance and give you a shot, and if you can't close it, they're not going to want to deal with you again. So it's really about staying with your word, doing what you say, and making sure that everything, it's contacting them, calling them, reaching out. I mean, we look at deals on the MLS every day. We're just looking, and to be honest, right now, I know what you're saying, but there's not a lot of inventory. There really isn't. So you just got to keep at it. It's kind of, been my mentality since 2010 is don't give up. I remember some of my team members would say, hey, we can't find any deals. Make deals. Like if you can't find them, you make them. And what I mean by that is, so you talk to the agent, you start finding out more. Are they distressed? Maybe they, we put in a lower offer. You never know when they take it. It happens. So it's there's deals out there. It's just you gotta think outside the box and go after them as much as you can. Talk to wholesalers, talk to people in the REI groups. Just speak to them. And let them know what you're up to, because that's something I learned. A lot of people, if there's no deals, well, have you introduced yourself to every agent in San Diego? I mean, I know it sounds crazy, but why not? I mean, well, the agents get deals all the time. I mean, they might not get one every single month, but hey, what if that one agent gets one a year and you have 20 agents? That's 20 deals. Just those one agents that get one a year, but they like you and they go with you. I mean, it's a numbers game at the end of the day. So it's really about being out there and not giving up. You got to just keep trying. The deals are out there, but you just got to do it, put in the time to really speak to these agents, speak to people. You can also try, just deals that brokers and agents, like, why not speak to them? Why not give them a call? Let them know what you're up to. If they can represent you, it benefits them. It's a win-win all the way around.
And then are you doing your own marketing yourself? Are you sending out letters direct to owners, anything like that?
It's funny you say that, because I just joined Seven-Figure Flipping. It's a mastermind group this last October for that same reason, because I have been noticing, why not do some direct marketing myself? And I've never really thought about it, never really was into it. And I've been, for the last year and a half, I was kind of trying it here and there, but kind of same thing. It wasn't my favorite thing to do, but I really kind of just gave it a shot. And really starting this last January, we've really been going at it really strong, and I've been sending some postcards and different marketing, and we picked up 11 deals from that so far this year.
Nice. Yeah. How big or how many postcards or letters are you sending per batch?
We're doing on average about over 20,000 a month.
20,000. Nice. Yeah. That's a good number.
So,
but 11 transactions, 11 deals.
Right. So trust me, most of our deals are from relationships, right? From MLS, from agents and people that we know. So really the marketing cost on that is your time. I mean, really just talking to people. I mean, there was no cost out of pocket if in that sense. So the direct marketing side, you're doing postcards or Google ads and Facebook ads and all these different avenues that you can, that you need to do. That costs money. It adds up to quite a bit. So I think that was a shell shock for me to give that side a try. But, we've been doing it, been putting a lot of money into it, but it has paid off. I mean, at the end of the day, it's all about numbers, right? So you kind of look at how much money you put out there for marketing, how much money you got back in. So as long as you're getting more money back in than you're putting out, then it's working, So that's the way I kind of built it, and we're really happy with it so far. We have both sides of the business kind of going on, and it's become just another acquisition avenue for us. It's not a huge one, but it produces. So it's kind of what you're saying. With everything happens, you got to adapt. You have to adapt to the market, and if that's what we got to do, I'm glad we're already starting it before COVID hit, and now that we are, everything being so virtual, it's kind of nice to know that we have some deals coming from each side.
Are you doing any wholesaling, or you're doing the full rehab yourself?
No, we haven't. We've been keeping them ourselves and rehabbing them all. I haven't really got into the wholesale game. Not for any particular reason. It's just I think I love rehabbing. I think at the end of the day, we have the team set up. I really do look at it as a team effort. I mean, it's I feel like everyone that works for us is like a family. So even my contractors and stuff that we've been using for years, I like to keep them busy and stuff, and it makes sense. And we all trust each other, and we're all in the same. We built a good group that I see the business as, why not keep it as a rehab? It keeps everyone busy, and we actually make more money, on that side sometimes. So I've been keeping it there. Will I wholesale in the future? Maybe, but as of right now, I think we're just gonna keep everything in house right now.
Are your contractors in house, or are you subbing them out, or outsourcing?
Technically, I guess you could say they're not in house. I mean, but we've given them so much business over the years. Again, as I mentioned to you, I've learned about business, right? About running a business. So it's really I really took that and tried to apply it with everyone we work with. So it's even though the contractors technically are on their own, but we treat them well. We pay them on time. They feel respected, and I can tell you that that's paid off for us. That they get hit up by many other investors in San Diego all the time. They show up at our properties and they call us and say, hey, just they don't want to leave us because we've been very respectful to them and respected everything about them working with. So technically they're not ours, but they're very loyal to us throughout the years that we've been loyal to them.
Got it. All right, Jesse. Well, I know you're busy, and any other last pro tips, how to reach you? Any last advice here for our audience?
Yeah, I mean, all I can say, for you guys starting out, don't give up. It's hard, it was hard for me in the beginning too, but it's just really going out there and talking to agents. Joe's a great person to start with. I mean, it's really talking to agents and helping them understand, because if they see your drive, and Joe's gonna put the time and effort to help you find your deals if he knows if he sees that your drive's out there. You know, if you're just gonna do it and not sure about it, then you got to really focus and really go out there and show them that you really what you want to do, and people will respect that and they'll start giving you deals. So that's my take on that. If anyone's interested in even in working on some of our deals together, please reach out to us. We're at we're AJX Homes, and you can reach me at jesse@ajxhomes.com. Feel free to reach out. If you want to chat, I'd love to talk to you.
You the man, Jesse. Everything that he said, I totally agree. I mean, treat your agents right, and you will get deals after deals after deals. I agree with everything you said, Jesse. It's been a pleasure to have you on the show. Thank you so much.
Great, Joe. Thanks. You have a great day.
You too.